think that's it. Let's move on to what we've been playing, and I want to start with Zach because we just got finished talking about Baldur's Gate and
Baldy
Baldygate,
Baldwin Gate.
Baldur's Gated Community, and I think it's time to actually talk about this. What's shaping up to be quite a game, some might say. Quite a game. I'm gonna start with this teaser first, and then we'll I'll play the other one. But here, go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go into like how I approach these games. So like how I approach RPGs is I really like to make the character, and then I don't think as me as I play these games. I think as the character. Like I design the character. I'm like, okay, this is who this guy is.
Wait, this guy's a role player.
Yeah, so like, I really like to do that, and there's a lot of games where I have to a lot of that lifting is on my own shoulders. Like I have to like make the decisions on myself, or like I have to hold myself up to this like to being this other guy. But this game, what it does really well is it already knows what kind of guy that I am, and the options that it gives me are the ones that I would say as this person. So it's really impressive because like my character is a drow, and in this setting, in the Forgotten Realms setting, drow live in the Underdark. They live like underground, away from people, and they're constantly kind of like in battle with each other. But besides that, they're not really liked by a lot of people on the like land, like on the above. So my character naturally is a lot of people who just hate me because they hate drow. They're very racist against drow, and I knew that going into the game. I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play a drow because that's gonna be fun. I want to see how people react. And I made my character a sorcerer who is a charisma caster. So my charisma is super high. So what this means is in conversations when people are being really racist towards me, I can use my charisma to make them not hate me. So like that was like my intent going into it, and the game lets you do that. Like there's so many options where it's like someone's just like, oh, why are you here? Like I don't want you here. Get out of here. And then I'm like, no, blah blah blah. And then they're like, okay, cool, yeah, you're a great guy now, whatever. Like stuff like that. So and normally if I wasn't playing this charisma caster, I would have to leave that situation or use another person in my party, because you can play as the other people in your group and use them to do conversations and stuff. And like I could like stand outside the door and have my elf do the talking, right, and get through that story, which is cool. It's a whole other side of this game. Like, so I intentionally made that character. And what's really fun is like for halflings and gnomes, they're usually slaves to people like my guy. So whenever I meet them, they're like, "Are you gonna enslave me?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Okay, cool, let's be friends." I'm like, "Okay, yeah." So like, but I could also enslave them if I wanted to, or I could kill them, or I could like. There's so many options, and that's what's really impressive to me about the game that I just want to like get across is it allows that level of expression, right? Like, and this is only my side. Like this is only me as a drow sorcerer. Imagine all the other types of stories that are happening for different races, different classes, different like there's so many different permutations to these things going on in the game. And like I can only speak from how I'm experiencing it, which is just like on that level, it's kind of crazy to think about that. But I want to even like drive it in even further. Is there's been times where like my character is not able to win over another character, so I send out my elf to talk to them, and then he's able to get a whole different conversation because they're willing to talk to him over me. So it's just it's all because of the race I picked. It's just so interesting. And it's just like it's that amount of detail that they put into it. That's like that amount of detail in the role playing, but it's also in the combat. It's also in the world itself. Like it's just like there's so many things that like I could play the game, you could play the game, and Taylor could play the game, and all of us would have a different experience, which is just kind of mind blowing, because also a lot of these choices are falling onto dice checks and dice rolls and class backgrounds, backgrounds, actions and decisions that you've made prior, people that you killed, people who you might not have killed, people who you met, people who you might not have met. That always kind of, it just naturally wraps around each other and just makes this like this organic like
game.
You know what? It's like an organic role playing game, which is what like the term role playing game gets used a lot, but it's never like this. It's never like Dragon Age Origins, which is like the first game I played in this genre that kind of made me be like, oh, well, this is what games could be. This is actually like the realization of what an RPG means, like actually playing as a totally different human and like inhabiting them in a world. But yeah, Taylor, you were gonna say something.
No, I was just saying, like, you're talking about it, and what it kind of came to me was that your description feels like the very narrow and focused version of what the Dwarf Fortress experience is, where you are living the experience and going through it. It's just that for Dwarf Fortress, it's the story is being told to you, or you're experiencing it with the story. Except with Baldur's Gate, you're directing the story because it's your character. But they deliver that same type of experience of live in the world and see everything as it happens. It's just that Baldur's Gate 3, it's like, obviously much shorter time span, although you might play it for as long. But you're not going through generations and generations, and it's hyper focused on the character that you build, as opposed to, in Dwarf Fortress, the character is your city, your mountain, your fortress. But just the way that you described it made me like imminently think of that experience from Dwarf Fortress.
Yeah, and so on like a story level, like, so the overarching story is you wake up on this Illithid ship, which is what that is. There's these mind flayers who are attacking Ivernum, which is like the continent where this takes place. They're going through different dimensions to attack the planes where humans live and stuff. And you're on there, and you get this worm put into your head, which is the way these mind flayers kind of control their underlings, and you and other people who become your party have these worms in their brains, but they aren't turning into these creatures that they would normally turn into because of the worm in their head. So that's just kind of like the thing is like the ship crashes and you're like, I got a worm in my head, I need to get this out so I don't turn into this big mind flayer or whatever. But that's like the inciting incident, and it starts out small. It's still, the story's pretty small for me. I'm not past like the initial kind of like hump. I'm still kind of getting there. But that's the initial inciting incident. Like, let's figure out how to get these worms out of our brains. And what the game does so well is you meet other companions and characters who have the same issue as you, and you're connected because you have the same like worms, so you can dig into their brains and like get into their past. Some people don't like it, some people don't mind it, but you meet these other characters, and what is
a mimic.
Yeah. And what is so amazing about meeting these characters is everyone has their own story, which clearly that's a given, right? But like, everyone has their own thing that they want to pursue besides the worm. Like, there's this girl, her name's Lizelle. She's a Geth, and they're these warrior race that are, the ones fighting the war against the mind flayers, and she wants to get to this warrior because she thinks there's a healer in her race that could help her. So she has that going. Then you have a camp of druids who are being attacked by goblins, and there's tieflings there who the druids don't want the tieflings there, so you kind of have to like help with that. And there's these goblins who also have things in their brains too, so you go to the goblin camp and you meet other people who are controlling the goblins with the things in their brains. And everyone, but the thing that I like, everyone has their own agency. Like everyone in your party has their own thing going on, and they remind you of it. Like if you stop, some characters are like, why are we stopping? Like we need to go. Or like some of them hate the other people in your group, and there's times where they attempt to kill each other. Like, and if you let them kill each other, that main character won't be in the game for you. She's just gone forever. Or you can even just kill them too, straight up, if you wanted to. You could just kill main characters who have plots and stories kind of connecting everything. You can just kill them, which is another layer of like this like role play that they allow you. But yeah, that's also another thing too. It's like I could talk to Taylor and be like, "Oh, did blah 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 say this to blah blah blah?" And he could be like, "No." Like, oh.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, and
yeah, blah blah blah.
Or there's Asterion, who's the elf. He's a vampire. You learn out pretty quick. He's also a vampire who was like a slave who could only drink blood of animals. And at one night you wake up and he's about to bite your neck, and you can oblige him, let him suck your blood. And if you do that, he'll kill you. He'll kill the main character, and then you have to take control of another character to revive you with a spell. Like, which is just crazy. And but there's so many instances like that where you go back to camp and your guys are just like, yeah, I got this thing going on. Like there's this guy named Will who not Will, this guy named Gale. Gale is a mage. He has a pact with some deity, and the deity demands him to suck magic from magical items. So you have to bring him items or he dies. And if he dies, you have a ritual that you have to do that he explains to you in vivid detail. He's like, you have to open my book bag and use the purple string, open up the note, and on the note there's going to be letters for you to play on a flute. And once you play those letters on the flute in the right order, another box will pop up, and you have to answer this riddle and say this to the box to open that up to get the scroll to revive me. And you're like, okay, Gale. And then you then you just kind of like forget about it, and then you come back to camp and he's dead. And you know what? You loot his body. There's his book bag. Time to revive Gale. And you have to remember every single step, or he's gonna be dead. You won't have Gale anymore. Like, and that is just like, it's crazy. It's just so much stuff that is just like, okay, like I'm 20 hours into this game and this is what I'm presented with. Like, wow. How does it keep, like, I have 4 out of 10 people that I can get in my group. So it's just like, there's just it's so dense, and they don't expect you to like experience everything in the first playthrough or second or third or fourth or fifth. Like it's a game that is dense and it respects your time, which is kind of weird. Like it respects your time, saying like, you play the game however you want to play. If you want to come play more, sure, whatever. But it gives you exactly what you want. And like even that amount of detail is also in the combat. For example, you can like throw water on people and shock them with electricity, and it does twice as much damage. Or you can like walk into a puddle, put some ice on it, make them slip, and then turn it in, then like light it on fire and it melts. There's just a lot of stuff. It's crazy. Play it. It's really good.
Yeah. I am.
Yeah.
Whatever you've been playing it on PC, right?
Yeah, I've been playing it on my computer. Yeah, and also last night I played for like 4 or 5 hours, and I didn't even get into like combat. Like I was just walking around, and they give you options to like they give you a jump button so you can just jump around, and like I was using jump on my most like athletic guy to like get around encounters and like go and explore a tower, and like using that to jump over traps, or just like there's just so much stuff. It's like it's just crazy of the amount of like minute detail that's taken into account. It's
time to build a box fort and get around critical encounters.
Right.
Like
right.
I'm in the Underdark. I'm trying to like figure out how to get to this thing, and they were like, yeah, so there's this like rock thing you have to do this whole quest to get around. And I was like, no, I'm gonna extend my vampire. I'm gonna make him like jump really high and like go over the wall. And like so I just did that and got around the whole quest and just kind of like started doing my own thing. And yeah, it's crazy.
There are so many intricacies in this game. Like there's so many threads that work together, much like D&D in real life, or as real life as it gets. But it seems like there's so many aspects of this that are tied together through just how the game functions, and how how some of the real world aspects, like you're mentioning, sort of the race relation stuff, and then you throw magic into there, and then you start throwing some other aspects, and it all feeds off of itself.
Yeah, it's like it feels like a role playing game. Like like, because when you say a RPG, there's games you think
in a realized world, it's a role playing.
Yeah, when you say RPG, you think of like, oh, game of stats and leveling up, and that's kind of it. No, this is like an actual like it's that, but this is like your actual story. You're this guy, like you're
the heart of what the role is, your character. You take on this role. It's not it's not about stats. Sure, there's stats there, but and so my issue with RPGs has always been to
there's Gale.
There, Gale has always been to do the right thing every time. I can never get out of making myself a character that's not myself. It's like I'm always the dude with the faux hawk and brown hair and brown eyes. Sorry, Taylor. God,
you surprised me there.
And I'm always trying to do good, and I'm always trying to be on the side of the people, not the empire, and that kind of stuff. And it's so.
You have to release yourself to the role play.
Well, I think that's what Baldur's Gate. So I've got it on Steam Deck. I'm just chipping away at it after that massive, 150 gig download that it was for day one or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I ended up waiting. By the way, I'm like, you know what? Because we kept getting emails about updates. They're like, hey, you're going to have to delete the game and then reinstall this whole big thing. And if you have early access, I'm like, you know what? I'll wait till launch day when they get those massive kinks out, and then I'll download it. So I had
to keep installing the game over and over again each time I had a patch.
Yeah,
and it's like I did that, and because I wanted to keep playing, I didn't want to wait. I was like, I'm gonna download this game 5 more times. I don't care. I just want to play. Like,
hopefully you have unlimited data, which is great. But no, there's you talk about depth in games, and we talk about RPGs, and I know Starfield's out there, and we just had Zelda, and we've had Final Fantasy and other stuff. This really feels like the true. You are in this world. You are D&Ding in this world, and the DM is telling you all of these details that are happening and things that are happening around you. But now it's just visual and audio in this case, but it's all there, which is cool. I think it's fantastic. I'm so excited to dive into this and never play another game again because it'll take me about 3,000 hours to complete this, knowing me.
Yeah, there's conversations. In conversation, the game is constantly rolling dice checks behind you. So it's not showing you the dice rolls, but sometimes if you succeed a check, it'll say check passed, and a voice will come over and be like, you realize that blah 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 blah, and it'll give you insight into what is happening or something that is going on.
Sure.
If you're walking around, you'll roll perception checks, and the characters will realize something on the ground or like see something. Wow. So the game is constantly like checking your stats, checking your characters.
Adapting. That's cool.
It's crazy. And I'm glad. I mean, it's kind of funny seeing other devs being like kind of like mad, like, oh, this is setting a standard for video games. It's like you gotta adapt or die, guys. Like this is kind of
the year for that, though, right? We've had probably several games this year now, and this is the latest that have been like, crap, what have we been doing? How did they pull this off?
We've had multiple genre like revolutionizing games in the past 2 years. So it's exciting. But the thing is, nobody's going to ever reach Larian level unless they invest 6 years of time into a game.
And
a single player game with no games as a service transactions and stuff. So good luck.
And the great thing about Larian is somebody approached them earlier this week and asked them if they'd be willing. Would you be willing to sell if somebody wanted to throw a big chunk of change at you? And they said, nah, we're fine. We're fine doing what we do on our own. So good to them. Who was it? Bio? Who was it that did the first two Baldur's Gates? Was it BioWare or was
BioWare? Yeah, it was when they were good.
But I mean, you could definitely see what Larian brings to this. With their, like you said, the Divinity games, all of that work there. They seem to have done some excellent work, because this is, Zach, on your. Would you consider this a GOTY contender? Based on, okay, there you go. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
cool.
I think. Yeah, I don't think it's a competition for me, at least.
Sure. Yeah, tents and trees, man. Tents and trees. We're gonna get to that in a little bit. No, that's awesome. So Baldur's Gate 3 is out. I have a feeling, just like the other two big games that we've already talked about this year, we're gonna be talking about this game over the next several months, and I'm excited to pour time into it. So yeah, thanks to we got this as a code for Steam. I think I have to say that now every time we get a review code. We got this as a Steam code.
I got that as a Steam code 3 years ago.
Yeah, did you? And then you got the actual release version now. Very cool.